Get out!
Hello tankers and tankettes, welcome to one of my replays, and it's a low tier light tank for a change. It's the M5 Stuart. Now of course there are some changes to the light tanks coming up with the next patch. 9.3 brings in a host of new vehicles. The Chaffee, which basically was unchanged in the last round of light tank changes in terms of matchmaking and characteristics and balancing, that is also going to be balanced. And what's not good news for people who've got the Chaffee, or what they might be slightly sour about, is the fact that, of course, the XP requirements are going to drop because it's going to become a light tank line in the same way that the Chinese have light tanks, for instance. So the XP requirements from getting from the tier 4 to the tier 5 are going to drop, but there's not going to be any compensation for anyone who's already got a Chaffee. The other thing that is changing with the existing Stuart is it's losing this turret and the little derp, the 75mm howitzer, because in real life this was an artillery piece with this particular setup, this configuration. Wargaming kind of bodged it onto the light tank setup because reasons, and it's getting replaced with, I think a top turret that's probably similar to what is on the Chinese Stuart. I'm not sure. It's also getting a 37mm gun, which I think is auto-loading. I don't know the characteristics, but it's 37mm. It's not going to be great. So the days of driving around with a little derp are going to be over. And I've been playing this a bit more recently to try and get what I think should be enough XP. Enough. That reminds me of terrible French jokes, but I'm not going to tell you a terrible French joke because it's the only terrible French joke I know, and I might want it someday. So I've been grinding it a bit, and I had this game. Some games I was actually playing seriously, other games I was just kind of YOLOing and suicide scouting because it was clear the team wasn't much got. And if the team's a bit rubbish, there's not much you can do in a low tier Stuart. So I opened fire on that Panzer 1C who was just suicide scouting, because, you know, he was about to spot me anyway, so might as well do something about it. We know there are going to be some tank destroyers in the forest because the enemy team's quite heavy on tank destroyers. The Su-85I is actually out in the open over there, the KV-1's in the middle, and there's actually a bunch of stuff supporting me if I spot stuff here. So if you don't know about this position at the edge of Murovanka, well, it actually doesn't matter because the map is changing quite significantly also in 9.3, and I cannot express how glad I am. Now that Churchill 3's probably seen me, so I'm going to back off. We don't have 100% crew in this thing. I'm trying to remember what I did with the crew on this. I think I played through this to get the M7 originally, and I did not want to elite it because it's a lot of XP to get the Chaffee, or at least pre 9.3, if you're watching this in the future, it was 55,000 XP to get to the Chaffee. It's a lot of grinding to do in a tier 4 light with terrible guns. So I think I've got enough XP now, but I've been just playing it a bit more recently to try and get that XP. And I had actually planned to get the Chaffee anyway, but it's the thought of playing this that is just... It's not a good tank particularly, and it's more that if you had regular matchmaking it'd be fine, but up until relatively recently it's had scout matchmaking, which puts it in up to tier 8 battles, and that's slightly better these days, but it's still not particularly great. There's not a whole amount you can do in a lot of situations. This particular battle, for instance, I'm talking more about the tank than the battle. I should probably talk about the battle, but there are a lot of changes coming up to this tank, and you know, these are the reasons that I have been playing it recently. But this battle actually looked like we might be able to win it, so I was actually playing a bit more seriously. There were a couple where I just went on, you know, YOLO runs through the middle and, you know, lit up half the enemy team, but it really didn't matter. So I'm pretty sure the zero line is clear. I'm just taking a risk here. If their tank destroyers are in the forest, I'm hoping that they are on the other side of the forest, and that I've actually got a clear run through to take out their artillery. And actually, there's the Su-76. He's got pretty minimal armour, so my derp gun's happy to see him. There we go, 2 shots, and he's down. Su-5's turning to look at me. I don't know what his reload's like, and I'm just auto-aiming here. And I do that pretty much only when I'm playing light tanks, is actually use the auto-aim, because if you're trying to fire on the move and you're not... whoa, okay. Yeah, T49 definitely in the forest. If you're firing on the move, then you don't want to... It sometimes matters less about actually hitting the enemy than it does just making a getaway. But if you can also hit them whilst you're on the move, then that's fine. And if you're auto-aiming, you can think about your driving and just, you know, hold down the left mouse button as you're driving. So that T49's down. And I know this Stug is potentially a one-shot. And there he is, 15 health. And again, auto-aiming, I don't want to really stop. And although I do kind of pause a bit, you know, slow my speed to let the reticle close slightly. T49, the other T49 is going for our BDR, who shoots him once, and I think the T49 actually rams into the BDR, so GG. T49, not the heaviest tank. So this battle actually went pretty quickly, but I like to think I had a decent impact on the outcome. I've actually got a fair number of kills, and it's probably one of the more fun battles I've had in the Stuart where I've not been top tier, because just occasionally you get to be top tier, and it can be glorious or it can be terrible, because bear in mind it's a tier 4 battle. So there you go, rear of the Su-85i, and I actually penned him with that shell. And these shells, these HE shells, the 75mm HE, they're terrible. I don't even know what the pen is, but they're just awful. But that one actually did pen, and bam, there we go. That was my ace mastery. Now, in terms of scouting, you know, 4 spots, and I did some spotting damage, you know, 710 spotting damage, 879 actually done damage, but it's not that impressive for a scout. And I know this was a tier 5 battle only, which helped a lot. You know, if this had been tier 6 or tier 7, I probably could have done a lot less of what I actually was able to do. But it was more being able to whiz around and just do damage, and I think even though I was playing a bit more seriously, I still wasn't caring that much. I was just kind of going for it, basically. So because I was shooting at higher tier targets for the most part, I say for the most part, I did shoot some high tier targets. Some were tier 4, but no, I think it was mostly tier 5. A majority were tier 5 anyway. I actually walked away with 991 base XP, and that was enough for the ace mastery. And it was a fairly fun, fast match, and I wish more Stuart matches were like this, but most of them, yeah, most of them are not. Most of them are either go and camp bush, or you just YOLO. You know, you wait a couple of minutes, see the team is losing horribly, you just YOLO, so you can go back to garage and get into the next battle, because there's literally nothing else you can do. So there you go, M5 Stuart, Ace Mastery. I will probably be able to buy the rejigged Chaffee right after the patch, because I'm pretty sure I've got enough XP for that now. In fact, I've probably got more XP than I need on the Stuart, so I don't know, I can just convert that to free XP or something. I think with the matchmaking, even the better matchmaking these days, it's not great. It's not terrible, but if you want to play a Stuart with a decent gun, you go and play the Chinese Stuart, I think. That actually gets a 47mm gun, which I think I've said already, and is actually capable of doing more damage under the right circumstances. It's the same tank, but with a better gun, pretty much. So if you like this replay, you can leave any comments below, you can hit the like button, you can subscribe to my channel, and as always, stay tuned for more.